Welcome back to the studio. It's Tracy Treese, and for this session, we're talking about live events. This section is one that's near and dear to my heart. It's the one that I've worked on the most in the past decade, whether that was through radio or through me live DJing or working with venues and doing karaoke. I've pretty much thought of how to make money from live events in a million different ways, but there are three specific ways that you can implement them into your podcast. And this is the perfect time. We're coming out of a lockdown. People are really valuing intimate events. So nobody's really feeling large format events unless, you're in a state like California where most people are vaccinated and everybody's back going to ball games and stuff like that. People are just different about their security of, what's around them. So, um, for live events for small podcasts, this is a great way to start to kind of grow your audience, especially if you pair it with a venue or a location where your listeners or your followers like to hang out. So the three kinds of ways that we're going to go over, one is venue partnerships. I used to do this a lot with karaoke, but it works really well with podcasting as well because you're going to record every week, every other week, whatever you have set up as your publishing schedule. um, I suggest having a partnership with a venue where you come out and live record your podcast maybe once or twice a month, especially if you have guests, because what that does is it allows you to bring some business into the venue and you give them a little bit of something in return there. And for that, they help you to more people who are just frequenting the venue or the restaurant or the bar or wherever you're doing it at. You can have more people who will learn about your podcast. You'll have more people who would follow you if they're a regular of the bar. They might become a fan then based on that. Um, as well as, you're bringing them business, so you can always ask for an affiliate code on the back end. A lot of these businesses have software like Square and all that where they can give you some kind of discount code. Maybe that's $5 off on your first visit or something like that. Challenge the business owner and create some kind of partnership there where you're saying, hey, I'm recording my podcast live. I'm creating this experience. One, do you mind if I sell t-shirts? Do you mind if I shout out my sponsors for the time? And then in return, since people are listening to this, give me an affiliate code. I want us to track how many people come back to shop at this business based on the show that they've seen. That's really intriguing for business owners, because if you're in your local town and you're winning your neighborhood, you're going around the local bars. A lot of these are family owned. So they're doing everything that they can right now to get people to come back out. And you planning the programming and inviting the audience out there is what a lot of businesses are looking for. So just find a venue that translates with your brand, translates with your message. Maybe it's where your people who are already listening to it are hanging out, but align yourself with them that way and do a venue partnership. But be sure to ask for a referral code or a discount code or some way that you can track that. Or you can just ask them, how were your sales this week, that kind of thing. I used to do it with karaoke to get people in the bars, because if you do free karaoke, the bar owners would pay me every week to come out, only because they knew people loved karaoke and I had a following. So that's basically how I made that work, and I gave myself a gig. I sold myself a gig. Another thing is you can have live events at venues and sell tickets. You can absolutely do that. And maybe it's at a venue where you have to pay a little bit. Make it make sense financially for you. But if you have a reoccurring or a standing podcast that has anything to do with networking, people in an industry gathering, even like common themes. I know there are a lot of podcasts for gamers. If you want to have a game night somewhere, how lit? Have a game night, sell tickets, invite your podcast audience throughout the week. Hey, I'm going to be at this location. I'm going to be at this location. Come out. And then record live, but also live stream it so that the people who don't live in the city can see what it's like and maybe want to travel to see you. That's how you get that buzz and get that thing going out there, right? The one thing that I will say about the audio and video, if you're going to do a live event and you're going to sell tickets, you should hire a videographer. I'm not saying you hire a sound crew or all that, to come out, but you need a videographer. You want the best footage. And most videographers, once they give you the video, you can just take the audio track off of there and it's pretty good. You can upload it to your podcast. So that's just a way that I think about it. You might invest a little bit of money up front, but depending on how you frame it or the venue, wreck your brain thinking about your people and your listeners and how much people would pay for something like that and how big or small of an event you can have, because ticket sales definitely can help you there. So another thing is invite awesome guests. So if you're having a live event and you're telling Mr. or Mrs. Guest, you're like, hey, I'm having an event at this bar, and they're a doctor or a philosopher or a psychologist or whoever you're inviting onto your podcast. You can swing for the fences a little bit, because people want to show up for live events. They'll invite their network. They'll say, hey, I'm speaking at this conference center. I'm speaking at this event that someone is having. They invited me to come, not that you're getting any free promo or anything out of there. It's just having the discussion and bringing that guest. And if they're already well respected, you can win over some listeners like that. Some people who are going to be loyal fans because you brought somebody who they already knew, or who they needed more information from or wanted more information from. You brought them out to them and gave it to them in an entertaining fashion. So the three different ways that I just talked about were venue partnerships, ticket sales, and inviting awesome guests. These are three different ways that you can start the revenue train moving on your live events. This is the step one. Stay tuned. We're going to move on to step two, and I'll see you in your next module.